Welcome back, everybody. This is QuestionMarc,
And I'm Ame.
and we are back for what will hopefully be the final, final episode of the Final Fantasy Commanders. We're still on the multicolor.
Yep.
It turns out that first off, there's a whole heck ton of them. Okay, and second off, I can't stop yapping about them. Um,
Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. Today I came prepared with a stopwatch.
we're gonna try to have me yap less. Although I still need to figure out for sure where they go. I may be giving you fewer diatribes and less guidance on what you should do with it. I'm still gonna give some though.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
probably a fair amount, but you've got 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Yeah, I'm planning on giving you 5 minutes for each one. I
Oh,
think
that's generous. Okay.
Yes, I am nothing if not generous. But if you start pushing that, I'm going to be like, hey.
Okay,
got places to be.
you can point your finger at me or something, and I'll notice, even if even if you don't want to make noise or whatever. So that said, let's get started with the one we left off on, Locke Cole from Final Fantasy VI.
That's right. He's one of our main guys, too.
Okay, he looks like one of the archetypal thieves.
Oh, yeah, this guy is a rogue all around.
Okay, I mean it makes sense. He's got that type.
All right.
What does he do?
For one, a blue and a black. Ooh, black on a hero. You don't on a hero type. You don't see that too often.
Okay.
You get a 2/3 human rogue with Death Touch and Lifelink.
Oh.
Whenever Locke Cole deals combat damage to a player, draw a card and then discard a card.
Okay, I've said in the past that a black aligned hero often ends up being kind of a Han Solo type, in that they have like a reputation for being like bad. They're a smuggler or something. They do crimes, but sometimes for the right reason. Or that they'll be like, hey, I'm just in it for the money. And then every once in a while be like, but I like you guys.
No, this guy, he is a thief, but he is very blatantly a heroic thief. There's no, I'm just in it for the money. He's actually in it to try to save his girlfriend.
Okay, but he's willing to do crimes to help.
Honestly, we need to see more black aligned characters that lean into the rebel archetype because,
Yeah, sure.
they're all about ambition, about independence, and they're all on that freedom juice and that, screw you, I do what I want.
Yeah.
And that is very much a rebel attitude.
Yeah, I mean, some black aligned heroes would be like, hey, I'm genuinely oppressed, and that's why I'm fighting for my freedom. It just so happens that that's a bunch of other people's freedom too, stuff like that.
A black aligned hero would be somebody who, I'm trying to word this in a way that doesn't encourage crimes.
Oh, well, I mean, look, Toshiro Umezawa was the hero of the original Kamigawa block, and he was very much a criminal. And he was very much a Han Solo type, in that some of it just seemed to be like, hey, I think this girl's pretty, and, or like, hey, I just want to be left alone by the Emperor, or like, oh no, this thing fell into my lap and now people are attacking me, so I guess I'll fight back.
Remember, kids, just because you're a criminal doesn't always mean you're the bad guy. It might mean you're a bad guy, but it can also mean you're definitely not the biggest douche in the room.
And one of his best friends was Heartless Hidetsugu, who was like a monster. He had like slaves, kind of, people who owed him blood debts. And he had a demon in his basement that he was torturing. And then eventually he ate that demon, and now he's part demon. So,
Wow.
yeah. And,
That's a dad bod.
yeah,
I
so you gotta
cannot
watch
be
out
the only
for
person
it.
who was thinking that.
Okay.
Anyway, back to Locke.
Yeah, so, Locke Cole. Okay, so we're failing the vanilla test here, but Death Touch and Lifelink are sick. Especially on blue-black. When do you see Lifelink in blue-black? Like, almost never. There's like one card I can think of that was blue-black and had Lifelink. But I'm glad to see it here. Now, dealing combat damage to a player, I've said before, is one of the highest hurdles um, for a trigger in Commander, that you have to cast your Commander, have it resolve, not have it removed for an entire turn while it loses summoning sickness, then attack with it, then not get blocked by it, and then finally connect, and it finally does something. And in this case, what does it do? Draw a card and discard a card. That's a very, like, basic thing for a blue-black card to do. Like, Merfolk Looter is the classic example. This is the reason why this effect is called looting, because of him. You tap, you draw a card, you discard a card.
Ooh, history. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, how far back does that card go? It goes back to Exodus in
That artwork.
1998. Hello, Ron Spencer. Very creepy root water merfolk back then. But, so, the effect here is not super great.
But Death Touch and Lifelink.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Death Touch is going to go a long ways. It's close. It's weird that it's close to evasion, in that, like, flying is the typical evasion. Menace is pretty good. Death Touch is a weird form of evasion where people can block it, but often will choose not to.
Right.
Because if you've got a small creature, you'll probably throw that in the way. But if you've got a big creature, you usually don't want to lose it to lock. And Lifelink, I'm not sure how that could be abused per se, but Black especially does have a lot of ways of spending life.
So, if nothing else, Locke is going to help keep you on life support. Just like his girlfriend!
Oh, well, that's nice. Okay, so...
Funnily enough, I don't remember what happens to her in the story.
Oh, as long as there are people who need to be protected, I'll keep on fighting. Well, okay, all that said, where do I think that he falls? I think that he falls in Better in the 99.
I think he would be fine with that.
Yeah, and the reason why is because he doesn't give you much of an incentive to play him in particular as your commander. Whereas there are a number of rogue commanders out there, the most popular of which is Anawan, I think that's how you spell it. Yeah, Anawan the Ruin Thief, I think is the most popular rogue commander. He gives your other rogues +1/+1. Obvious reason to have in the command zone then, synergizes with all the rogues. And whenever one or more rogues who control deal combat damage to a player, that player mills a card, and for each 1 damage dealt to them, and if they mill at least 1 creature card, you draw a card. So yeah, seems good in a rogue deck with somebody like him as the commander. But a fine creature and, efficient and everything. So, and looks cool.
Okay.
Then we have Noctis, Prince of Lucis, the main character from Final Fantasy 15.
And for one mana, a white, a blue, and a black, you get a 4/3 human noble with lifelink. You may cast artifact spells from your graveyard by paying 3 life in addition to paying their other costs. If you cast a spell this way, that artifact enters with a finality counter on it.
So, that's interesting. So, it allows you to play artifacts from your graveyard, but it doesn't help you put things into your graveyard. So that means the rest of your deck is going to be things like surveilling and self-milling and draw and discard effects, I guess, so that you can make use of it at all. Otherwise, I guess it's expecting that your artifacts are going to get blown up sometimes, and then he brings them back.
That kind of looks like the case. I mean, he does have all those ghost weapons around him.
Yeah, so, in the game, I don't remember exactly how this works, but I believe he has, 15 inherited royal weapons.
Oh, got it. Ancestral weapons that he can just summon like that.
Yeah, so in the game, he'll frequently, summon this noble weapon to his hand, and he'll get to use it for a few seconds, but then when he lets go of it, it disappears back into the aether again. And so he has these, 15 imaginary weapons floating around him, and part of the game is trying to find the weapon themselves, where they are hidden around the world. And I guess that, adds it to his inventory permanently, and he can use it all the time instead of
just using the ghost of the weapon.
Yeah, so I think that, makes it more powerful. Correct me if I'm wrong on some of these things. I didn't get super far in Final Fantasy 15. I mostly cruised and fished and cooked and enjoyed that. Um, but that said, I mean, we're failing the vanilla test,
Yep.
and we're in three colors, so like you would hope that it would be pretty strong for having three colors you have to spend. But he's got lifelink, which is
That helps.
okay, but
But does it make up the difference?
I'll tell you, I don't I think I need to go particularly deep on this guy. I think he's questionable.
You probably could do something interesting if you somehow can make destroying artifacts part a positive thing for you.
Well, okay, so you're going to be playing an artifact deck. You're going to be playing maybe your Krark Clan Ironworks. Um, yeah, oh, there's probably more than one card. No? Oh,
Krark.
Crack Clan. Okay. Krark Clan Ironworks comes to mind.
The crack. Sorry.
I mean, they kind of are the Crack Clan.
Sacrifice an artifact, add 2 to your mana pool. Okay, there's that.
Yeah. So you can definitely be like playing artifacts, sacking them, bringing them back, except because of the finality counter, you can only do it once per artifact.
And also, why would you do that? It would just be bringing an artifact back, but worse.
Well, there are some artifacts that have enters abilities, there are some that have leave abilities. The most powerful one that I can think of is Spine of Ish Saw. Want to read that?
Alright, when it enters, destroy target permanent. When Spine of Ish Saw is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, returns Spine of Ish Saw to its owner's hand.
Mm-hmm. So a deck that's playing Krark Clan Ironworks is going to have a good time with this because you'll likely be able to sacrifice a few artifacts to cast it earlier than you would expect, destroy something, then sack the spine when you want to, and make 2 mana, and then put the spine back in your hand, and the 2 mana that you just made can go towards recasting the spine.
Huh.
So it could be a deck that recurs Spine of Issa. There's also, let's see, there's like Mere Retriever, but the coming back from the graveyard thing is something that Noctis already does for you. So how about, is it Wellspring? Or Mycosynth Wellspring or something? Ichor Wellspring? I mean, there's stuff like this, if you want to read.
It looks like me when I'm in bed.
Oh, geez. If you were wearing, like, a black latex outfit or something. No, it's all bulby and everything. Never mind. Okay, let's let's read the card.
When Ichor Wellspring enters the battlefield or is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card.
Yeah. So it enters, you draw a card. You sack it, you draw a card. You bring it back to the battlefield, you draw a card. You sack it again, you draw another card. So it's 4. You draw 4 off of 1 spell. But that is, you pay 3 life in addition to paying their other costs. So you still have to pay the 2 colorless to recast it from your graveyard. And I guess the last thing that you could do with it is like 0 mana cards that sacrifice and come back. And there's only one that I'm going to mention then, and that's going to be Mishra's Bauble. This was a valuable card at one point.
Woo! I love that design.
It is very pretty. I've seen that people have made jewelry of it, for real.
I'm not surprised. That looks good.
Yeah, so you can pay 0 for it, tap, sack it, look at the top card of somebody's library, and then draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So it's a way of drawing 2 cards in this deck for 0 mana and 3 life. Does that make Noctis good? Honestly, I doubt it. There might be something more powerful out there that you can do with recurring artifacts. The potential is decent, but since you have to pay for it and you have to pay 3 life, and he doesn't really stand on his own, I don't think he's that good.
You might be able to do something with him, but it would take some doing.
Yeah, it might not be worth it. There's probably better stuff out there. But now we're on to Omega Heartless Evolution, which is, I believe, a raid boss from Final Fantasy XIV.
Couldn't tell you.
Well, what does he do?
Well, for 5, a green and a blue, you get an 8/8 robot.
Oh.
And when he enters, for each opponent, tap up to 1 target non-land permanent that opponent controls. Put X stun counters on each of those permanents, and you gain X life, where X is the number of non-basic lands you control.
Okay, so he rewards you for playing lots of non-basic lands. I heard that the green-blue mechanic in this set is intended to be like town ramp. So we have all those towns, Let me do a quick search for green, blue, town. Okay.
Can I just say, I love that we're putting towns as lands.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea, and I hope that this is a mechanic that they just throw on some basic, well, not basic, but some, kind of okay lands going forward every now and again.
Yeah, that would be. Plus, it would also kind of. I think it would also kind of help orient us geographically in each of the planes.
Oh, sure.
Kind of give us a taste of what different towns and cities are like by visually distinguishing them.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
guess
Magic is kind
it's
of.
not that isn't there, but this I think could help build on that.
Yeah, I mean, Magic has been doing that for a long time. Sorry, in terms of making lands that represent particular places and trying to ground you, but the town type is new, and I think bolsters that mechanically in a way that is useful. Kind of like how there have been caves in Magic for a long time, like Caves of Koilos, but then they recently made the cave land type with Lost Caverns of Ixalan. And honestly, I wish that they would go back to those wells more often, because like in Lost Caverns of Ixalan, cave as a land type mattered. They printed some cards that cared about it, but since they just did it in one set, the mechanic isn't useful. It's not developed enough to like make a commander deck out of it or to be relevant in the long term. So I would love to see, yeah, towns, caves, things like that showing up randomly in all kinds of sets. Although it does beg the question that a lot of people ask when they see things like this: what do they do? Do you know what towns do?
What do they do?
Nothing. Yep, same thing with caves. They do nothing. This land works exactly like any other land that has this text on it, basically. The only thing that lands do different, or that towns do different, is that some cards reference them. Uh, there's a card, for instance, that says that you can search for like 2 basic lands and or towns. So you could normally not get a multicolor land off of something that searches for 2 basics. But since this one's a town, you could get, Guado Salam, Far Plane Gateway, in order to fix the mana in your Omega Heartless Evolution deck. So that's nice, but on its own, town doesn't do anything. So that means that this type is likely to be kind of undercooked, and if they don't come back to this well later, then it'll probably forever remain undercooked.
Fingers crossed, everybody.
Yeah. And Magic used to take 3 sets in a row in every setting that we went to. From, Kamigawa having champions, betrayers, and saviors. Ravnica, heck, we went back there like 4 times now, but it was originally like, Ravnica and Guild Pact and Dissension. And that provided so many cards that they could flesh out any given mechanic that they wanted to do really well, and it could stand the test of time. But nowadays, since we tend to go to one place, do a mechanic, and then leave, and we might never return, the mechanics always end up undercooked. Like Start Your Engines in Aether Drift.
Yeah, I don't really see us coming back to that one.
Which is too bad, because Start Your Engines is a really cool mechanic, but it just needs to be developed about twice as much.
I'd like to see us go do more of those room enchantments like we had in Duskmourn.
Oh, absolutely. And yet, unless we return to Duskmourn, it's unlikely we're going to get them.
I hope so.
I
like
know.
Duskmourn. I love it.
And honestly, in a lot of these things, you could just throw them anywhere. Like towns, like caves. But they haven't, and they still maybe won't. But Wizards has bent on this a little bit in the past. Okay, to focus back on Omega, though. 7 mana 8/8 well passes the vanilla test. And by the time that you've got to 7 mana in a deck like this, you likely do have a lot of basic lands. Maybe even 7. So you are stunning...
A lot of non-basic lands.
Wait, you're putting X stun counters on each of those permanents? Okay, so...
And gain X life, where X is the number of non-basic lands.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to try to avoid playing basic lands in this deck, actually.
Like the plague, baby.
Okay, so that means you're going to tap probably 3 permanents for possibly like 7 turns. Basically, those things are destroyed. As long as tapping them does something useful, like Don't put it on someone's lightning greaves. It doesn't matter if that's tapped.
Yeah.
But, put on one of their... What, can it do lands? No, it can't do lands. Shoot. You'll also gain a bunch of life, so that's good. But if it only does something when it enters... there is a style of commander where people just build, like, a solid deck, and then their commander is just, like, one powerful thing that they can do every game. Just, like, late in the game, boom.
The special
do that
move,
thing
so
one
to
time.
speak.
Yeah, it's your spirit bomb in the command zone. And then the rest of the deck is just blue-green good stuff, kind of. In this case, land fetching. So, that said, is he better in the 99? Probably. Probably. In fact, I think I'm going to put him pretty high on better in the 99, like maybe about here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because personally, I don't like playing that way, where you have your commander as a big bomb, because everybody sees it coming.
Yeah.
And in this case, also, like, tapping down your opponent's things forever it's not, like, a fun thing to do. It doesn't have evasion or defense or anything like that, so... but it is a powerful trick. So, Renoa Heartily.
Heartlily. Oh, Heartily.
It is Heartily.
I kept reading it as Heartlily for some reason.
I know, so did I. And the professor in his recent video also pronounced her name wrong. I think he went with something like Reno or something like that.
No, it's Renoa.
Yeah, he just read the letters in the wrong order. So, and he does multiple takes, or he can. We don't. So
Nope.
So if we get it wrong, that it's because of, like, our eyes crossing and we did one take. But if other YouTubers get it wrong, don't make fun of them, actually. Anyway, what does she do?
Well, for 3 mana, a green and a white, you get a 4/4 human rebel warlock. Really? Warlock?
Warlock?
When Renoa Heartily enters, create Angelo, a legendary 1/1 green and white doggo.
Hey!
And whenever Renoa Heartily attacks, another target creature you control gets 1/1 until end of turn for each creature you control. Probably her dog.
Yeah, okay, so enter Make the Dog, which, by the way,
Get doggo.
Angelo token. Look at that
Look
good
at that
boy!
good boy! I
Yeah.
want to give him fluffles.
I know. And yeah, for some reason, just for a second, I thought I read Dog Cannon.
You kind of did,
Dog
because
Cannon.
the name of her power is Angelo Cannon.
Oh shoot, it is Dog Cannon. His name's Angelo. Okay.
Yep, that's right. One of her moves involves putting her dog, like, on her arm and firing him like a cannon. I don't know how she does it.
Well, okay, so...
yeah, it's probably going to be the dog that you put those 1/1 counters on. But
Okay.
it could technically be something else.
Alright, here's a trick question. Does she pass the vanilla test?
No, she does not.
Yes, she does.
Wait. Oh, right, because the dog.
Because the dog! She is a 5-mana 4/4, but she enters and creates another 1/1. You add those together, since it's like a foregone conclusion. If you cast her, she's going to enter and make the dog. So you can rely on getting 5 power and toughness off of that 5 mana. And then, okay, so she does have to attack in order for her other ability to happen. But as I was saying before about, like, the difficulty of different abilities triggering, attacking is 1 step easier, or 2 steps easier, than dealing combat damage to an opponent. So you attack, and then you buff another target creature. So the only problem here is that you gotta get in the red zone with Renoa in order for her to buff somebody else. That's dangerous. She's a 4/4 with no evasion, no, like, I don't know, indestructible, no first strike, no anything like that.
She is
No
pretty.
protection.
She is a pretty reckless sword, I will say.
Yeah, so this is another deck that's probably good for reconnaissance, as I showed in our previous video, so that she can attack and then pull herself back. Also, the creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature you control. So just skimming this, originally I thought that it just gives +1/+1, which is lame. But for each creature you control, well, I mean, by turn 6 when you're attacking with her, you could have
probably got some
6
stuff on the field.
creatures, and then she gives +6/+6. That's great, except the dog doesn't have any abilities on its own. So,
You can have the dog, but maybe you should give your buff to the dog, even though the dog's guaranteed.
I know. Like, okay, it reminds me of, I think it's Minsk and Boo.
Ah, Minsk and Boo!
Mm-hmm. So Minsk, when he enters the battlefield, creates Boo. And he, by the way, 3 mana for 3/3 and a 1/1, and the 1/1 has trample and haste. So Minsk, a lot more efficient than Renoa, but also Minsk is a mythic rare and Renoa is an uncommon. So, and you usually do get a little bit more power the more colors you have. But then Boo having trample and haste makes it a much better target for abilities like X until end of turn that creature has a base power toughness XX and becomes a giant. So you can cast Minsk Beloved Ranger, and then the next turn you can spend 4 mana to turn Boo into a 4/4 Trampler. So that's way better than
You could probably make
nothing.
an interesting token deck with Minsk and Boo as the with Minsk as the commander, and Renoa as in the 99.
Yeah, in fact, for that reason, I'm putting Renoa as better in the 99, but actually quite a bit lower. Maybe about here.
Lore-wise, I think that if they made a movie of Final Fantasy VIII,
Mm-hmm.
they would probably want to cast someone like Zoe Deschanel as Renoa, or someone in that vein.
Like the manic pixie dream girl.
Oh my
who's,
god, so
just
much
like
so. She walks
soft
up.
girl with dark hair.
She walks straight up to the grumpiest guy at the ball who is giving "Do not talk to me," and she's like, "You want to dance with me, right?" "No, you are getting very sleepy." And he's like, "Girl, what are you doing?"
Hypnotizing you.
"Is it working?" I am not kidding. This is a thing that actually happens.
Wow. Okay. Well, regardless, I know that she's supposed to be a signpost uncommon for the green-white go wide mechanic in this set, but unfortunately, I don't think she's very good. You get her in draft or sealed in your pre-release kit, she's gonna be fine because she's like, a rather large creature. She gets you a buff. You don't have to worry about the quality of your opponent's blockers being as good most of the time, so you can probably just attack safely with a 4/4.
And you get a dog.
Yeah,
You get a free dog.
But you really need to have some creature with abilities next to her to buff. And the one that I'm going to bring up then is, I think it's the Sky Hunter. Sky Hunter Skirmisher comes to mind. You want to read that?
Let's see. Flying and double strike.
It's a short read.
What more do you need?
Yeah, give this one +6/+6 and you're having a good time. Way more than giving the dog a buff. Oh well.
The dog's more like an in a pinch situation.
I bet you'll see people playing Renoa heartily as their commander, mostly because they like the dog and they just, want to have dog magic, and that's fine. Talking about, though, having a dog friend.
Oh my!
Rufus Shinra from Final Fantasy VII.
If I recall correctly, he's the heir to the Shinra fortune, and he's just kind of exactly what he looks like. A rich, pretty boy douchebag.
Yeah, I'll control the world with fear. It takes too much to do it like my old man.
See?
Yeah.
What did it tell you?
Okay.
And also that dog,
Darkstar.
yeah.
Well, let's read it.
Okay, so for 1 a white and a black, you get a 2/4 human noble, and whenever Rufus Shinra attacks, if you don't control a creature named Darkstar, create Darkstar, a legendary 2/2 white and black doggo.
Okay, so Darkstar. Whoa, what is on his back? Ew!
A leash.
No!
I know.
It's a tentacle!
It's like an uncute displacer beast.
Nah. Okay. Well, we know
there were
that...
definitely experiments done on that thing, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But, okay, so, similar to Renoa, Rufus here brings a dog, and so does he pass the vanilla test?
He absolutely does. He even passes it without the dog.
Oh yeah, he does pass it without the dog. Dang, because I was going to say no. And the reason why is because Rufus has to attack before he makes the dog. So with Renoa, you'll have 5 power and toughness immediately. You can block with them, you can equip them, whatever like that. But Rufus, you have to cast him, it has to resolve, has to go around the table once without having to block, get board wiped, or removed from some other thing. Go to combat, attack with them, and then you make Darkstar. And then Darkstar has summoning sickness, and he has to wait a whole turnaround. And Rufus is a 2/4, so he has the same toughness. He's just as likely to survive combat as Renoa, although coming out 2 turns sooner. That's good, but doesn't have the power
Wait,
to
Renoa
back
had
it up.
4/4.
Yeah, exactly. They have the same toughness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the dog's a little bigger, but out of all this, I mean, the main benefit that I'm seeing to Rufus and Darkstar is that you can make a new Darkstar if the old one dies. Which,
There is that.
that's the big difference between the two, flavorfully, I think, as well. That you don't want to be just making a new Angelo whenever you feel like it, but he's perfectly down to make a new Darkstar whenever he needs one.
Because he doesn't actually care.
Yeah, and
He just wants to have he wants a scary pet that will attack his enemies. He doesn't want a companion.
And once again, though, we don't have Menace, we don't have First Strike, we don't have Death Touch, we don't have anything useful like that. No defensive abilities like Ward or Hexproof.
This is literally all he has.
And no activated
A dog.
abilities, you can't draw cards, you can't remove things. So, extremely limited. The one way that this thing is actually useful is in the black-white archetype, there's a theme of sacrificing creatures for benefit. And Darkstar is the perfect science experiment for that reason.
Youch, that is cold.
It absolutely
It's a flavor
is.
win, and I appreciate that, but that is cold.
You know what else is a flavor win but very cold is the card Fallen Ideal. Why don't you read this one for us?
Let's see. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature is flying and sacrifice a creature. This creature gains +2/+1 until end of turn. When it's put in the graveyard from the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. Oh, so you put it on the... You give it to the dog.
No, you put it on Rufus.
Oh, you put it on Rufus.
Yep, and then you attack with Rufus with flying now, so he's not going to be blocked.
Ah.
You make a dog, and then you eat the dog in order to make Rufus into a 4/5 flyer until end of turn. And every turn you just make a new dog and eat it for the benefit.
Oh, dang. This got really dark really fast.
Yep, and of course you've also got things that I've brought up in other videos before. Altars that you can sacrifice the dog to. Deadly Dispute that you can sacrifice the dog to. So, a lot of ways of sacrificing the dog. Now, do you want this as your commander? Heck no.
Nah, dump him in the 99.
Absolutely, in the 99, and I'm going to put him down lower here somewhere, probably about here. He is a decent source of repeatable dog, but...
Unless you desperately need repeatable dog, what are you doing?
Yeah, and unless you can give him some kind of evasion, you're not going to be able to rely on the repeatable dog because he has to attack to make it. So, not the best. Going on to the next one here, we have, is it Rydia?
Rydia!
Rydia, Summoner of Mist, from Final Fantasy IV.
IV.
Oh, one of your favorites.
And I see they've gone with adult Rydia instead of little girl Rydia.
Oh, and is that the Mist Dragon behind it?
Yes, isn't it beautiful?
Behind her? Yeah.
I love this artwork.
I remember the Mist Dragon being one of the few bosses that I actually got to in Final Fantasy IV, which is right near the beginning.
Oh yeah,
That's like
Yeah, you
hour
did not get
one
far at
of the
all.
game. Basically. I think that when I was really little, when the game was actually new, and I was playing it on a Super Nintendo, and that was the latest console, I got to the Mist Dragon, and I couldn't figure out how to beat the Mist Dragon, and I got frustrated. So, I was like 8. But anyway, what does she do?
Well, for a red and a green, you get a 1/2 human shaman. I almost said shaman, and I am so embarrassed.
Human salmon.
You got landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, you may discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. So,
Okay.
landfall, loot, and summon, X mana, and a tap. Return target saga card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn. Ooh, activate it only as a sorcery. Alright, get
Okay.
them sagas and summons.
Okay, this is actually really interesting. So, two details here. One is that if you draw a card and discard a card, they call it looting, and that is something that blue does more often because drawing and then discarding gives you more options for what to discard. You get to see all the cards and then lose one, instead of what she's doing, where you have to discard and then draw a replacement. So you don't know what the replacement's going to be. You know, hopefully you have something that you don't want in your hand to begin with. And instead of looting, since red often gets that ability, we usually call it rummaging.
Oh, so this
Just
is rummaging.
Yep. So just a little bit of terminology that people will use in, you know, in Magic sometimes. Rummaging, but still like pretty good, especially for a deck that isn't blue to have the option to rummage. Especially in a deck where maybe madness effects aren't likely, but there's a lot of cards that will like allow you to play lands from the graveyard, like Crucible of Worlds that we saw the other day.
That's right.
Or, of course, she returns sagas from your graveyard to the battlefield. So if you have any sagas in your opening hand, maybe they cost too much mana.
Maybe you save that one for a rainy day.
Yeah, I mean, this is also one of the few commanders where you might want to play her on turn 3 and then play a land. Just so that you can take your like 6 or 7 mana saga and discard it and draw a new card. And then, in a turn or two, you can, you know, bring it back. And do you remember what finality counters do?
Let's see. If I recall correctly, when something with a finality counter on it dies, it gets exiled instead.
Yes. So you can use a saga twice if you cast it legitimately, had it run out, and then bring it back with her ability, which is great. But even if you discarded it and then get it back, that's still pretty great considering she brings them back not just with a finality counter, but also with haste.
Which is great for our summons.
And this is one of the few instances where I think I'm totally fine with her not being able to use it at instant speed, because sagas, especially if they're summons, you want to attack with them, and they have a limited number of turns on the battlefield anyway.
And here she is, giving them an extra one.
Exactly. So, and at only 2 mana, you can get her out so early, start landfalling, building up those sagas in the graveyard. You're in green, so you can ramp in order to do that X better. I think that she might not be the best saga commander, but I think she's good.
She's definitely up there.
So let's see. I think she's good, and I want to put her somewhere around, like, maybe here. Okay.
Now Rydia and Firion can argue about which one was actually in Final Fantasy II.
Oh, because of the 2 different versions of Final Fantasy II, whether it's American or Japanese.
Yep.
Okay, so then we go on to Sarah Farron.
I know that she's Lightning's sister,
Oh, really? From Final Fantasy 13.
but she's like her dead sister, and apparently everybody's hung up on her. That's literally all I know.
Our own private heaven. Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay, well, what does she do?
Well, for 1, a green and a white, you get a you get a 2/2 human citizen.
Mm-hmm.
The first legendary creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less.
Oh.
So that's nice. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 2 or more other legendary creatures, you can transform her.
Other legendary creatures. Okay, we got a strong theme going here. She transforms into Crystallized Sarah.
Oh no, she became one with the crystal with the source of power of Atlantis.
Oh, yeah, hate to see that, unfortunately. But what does she do now?
The first legendary creature you spell still casts 2 less to cast, and
Alright.
legendaries get 2/2.
Yeah, oh, and she's not a creature anymore. She's just an artifact now. Aw. Lassie who fulfill their focus for their Fal'Cie. Fal'Cie master are transformed into crystal and granted life eternal. That's not life eternal, you're a rock. It's rock eternal.
And I'm pretty sure that Soren Markov would have a few things to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, most people who have, who are willful anyway, don't want to be stuck in a rock forever. He got out. Also, I did hear the developers mentioning that there's a different gloved hand reaching for her here
I've
and reaching
noticed.
for her here, and that does represent two different times in the story, but I don't know who they are.
Well, I can't imagine that gloved hand has anything good going on
Yeah, maybe that's how she ended up,
in this situation.
fulfilling her focus for her falsie.
Her fallacy.
Fallacy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But here's the thing. I think she's pretty great.
She is pretty cool, though.
Mm-hmm. Not passing the vanilla test, but that doesn't matter in this case because you're not using her to attack and stuff.
No, you're using her to get other legendaries on the field at a discount.
Yep. And then once you have two others, which is a pretty
That's
low,
a low bar.
then she turns into you. Okay, right. It still only gives the first one -2 to cast each turn, but that's fine.
That's not nothing.
No, and plus your deck isn't going to be 100% legendary creatures. It's going to be like 40% legendary creatures or something. But then they get +2/+2. That's pretty significant. Now, she doesn't inform you in any more specific mechanical way of how to build, like, they don't have to be creatures that fly, or creatures that gain you life, or any... So you could play just a mishmash of the best green and white legendary creatures of all time, and it would be fine. Although you do want to find ones that have 2 colorless in the cost to reduce it.
Right.
So... what would be an example? There are probably some legendary creatures that only cost 2 mana, like Marvin.
The murderous mimic.
Yeah, so he's literally free.
Free.
Is he good in this deck? I don't know. Probably not. But I mean, it depends on the activated abilities of the other creatures you control. But I don't know, is there some kind of sick combo that involves casting Marvin and then, like, sacrificing him and recasting him or something because he costs 0?
I'll call it Pinocchio and the Blue Fairy.
Oh, yeah! Wow, okay. Except right now Pinocchio doesn't do shit. So I don't know. There are definitely better legendary creatures out there than that one, but that's just the first one I could think of that you could cast for literal free. And getting +2/+2 is pretty great. I'm sure there are some, like, double strike commanders that can really take advantage of that. Some that care about their power, like Tifa. Her landfall thing is you double her power until end of turn.
Ooh.
Well, having her start at 3
Ooh.
instead of 1, that gives you a huge head start. And 3 mana is not a lot. One last little bit of, like, flavor here. Citizen. That's an interesting creature type. So in Magic, any sentient creature usually gets a class in addition to their race. Her race is human, her class is citizen. But some humans even don't always get a class. And usually what I've noticed, the trend here is that it's like when they become adults, it's when they get, like, a job. Except in the case of a citizen, the job is not so specific. But the job could be kind of anything. So,
Retail worker.
yeah, I mean, she doesn't look much like an adult to me, but I don't know, she could be working at Walmart.
Really? I was thinking Starbucks, or as
Oh, yes.
or as some kind, or maybe in a cafe or something. I could see her doing the barista work.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, good for her if she's working as a barista. Not so good for her if she's working at Walmart. But that tells me that that is probably what they're trying to imply here with Citizen. That is a creature type that has been supported a little bit, especially back in New Capenna. Okay. So, here's the thing, though. Without any more guidance besides legendary creature, she is going to be limited some.
Honestly, I think that actually makes her less limited. If I were to give advice to someone building a deck with her, I would say for your legendary... First of all, you're going to need legendary creatures, and second of all, you kind of want those legendary creatures to synergize with each other and maybe follow some kind of theming to kind of give extra structure to the deck.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I like it when a commander tells me what kind of cards I should have in my deck, like clerics or creatures, cards with activated abilities, or creatures that want to die and come back. She says legends, except legends do 1,000 different things. So when you need to focus your deck on specific strategies, she does not help you with that because legendary is not specific really. But I think I'm gonna
That's
put her at the
basically
bottom
what
of good.
happens when you're a lost Lenore in a story.
I think I'm still gonna put her at the bottom of good because honestly, it's a powerful effect. And I'm sure that you can build a very good deck with her as the commander. It's just it's gonna challenge the deck builder quite a bit to figure out how to synergize all the different green, white creatures you could put in the deck.
Who's next? Oh, Shantoto, the only character from Final Fantasy XI I actually know.
I can say even less. I think I've seen them in art before, but they're a tactician magician, and I like that. That rhymes.
That is a good one.
Tactician magician.
Well, to be fair, Shantoto does have a thing for rhyming, as I saw in
Oh,
Dissidia, which is what I know her from.
oh ho ho! I might be the harshest mistress in all of Vanadiel, but I may yet forgive you if at my feet you kneel. Ah, rhyming. Okay.
Alright, for a 1, a blue, and a red, you get a 0/4 Dwarf Wizard. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Shantoto gets plus X plus 0 until end of turn, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast that spell. If X is 4 or more, draw a card.
Okay.
Alright,
So.
not bad, not bad.
So let's see. 3 mana, 0/4. Actually, off to a bad start.
Oh,
But
yeah.
non-creature spells, there's lots of them, and I've said before that the red-blue mechanic in this set seems to be casting non-creature spells with a mana value of 4 or greater. And this absolutely serves. In fact, one thing that I forgot to mention in previous ones is the tiered spells are part of how they help with that mechanic in this set. I keep forgetting about tiered spells. I think that's how you would put it to find them. Tiered. Yeah! Fire magic,
Oh
ice magic,
yeah,
thunder
I
magic.
like these. I love.
Mm-hmm. And they tried to make. Oh no, they didn't do it on these. I was gonna say they tried to make it so that if you do the second form of most of these spells, you'll end up spending 4 mana and triggering your abilities. But this one, if you do the second form, it's only 3 mana. This one, if you do the second form, it's 4 mana, and this one, if you do the second form, it's 4 mana. So these two will trigger Shantoto just fine. And I think what's great about that idea is that if you need a cheap, efficient spell, you can get that. If you need a big, bombastic spell, you can do that. And if you need to trigger your 4 mana or greater things, you can do that. But you can have one spell customized to 3 different costs.
I do love these tiered. I do love these tiered magic spells. This is fun. This is interesting.
I don't think that any of these cards are so worth it that I would put it in just a random deck, but especially in a deck like Shantoto, it's a great option. I would also recommend cards with Kicker.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, I've heard people say in the past that every mechanic is either Kicker or Horsemanship. Because Kicker is like a boost to casting a spell. So granted, some of these are creatures. There, this might be a decent example. Or even better, Blink of an Eye. That would be even better.
Wow, that is some art.
Blink of an eye, you say? Yeah,
Which
lots
one?
of eyes. So in the end, if you pay 4 mana, you get to bounce a permanent and draw a card. But if you just need to bounce a permanent, you can't spend the 4 mana right now. You can still do that, but the kicker means that you spent 4 mana and Shantoto will get bigger and draw you a card again.
So get them kickers.
Absolutely. So kicker spells are going to be good, tiered spells are going to be good. There are cards with multi-kicker, there are cards with escalate, and a 100 different variations on kicker. So look those up.
Including flashback?
Flashback, I wouldn't... Well, I mean, flashback can work, but let me give an example of deep analysis, or deep anal. Uh, Deep Analysis, you spend 4 mana to cast it the first time, casting it from the graveyard with flashback would trigger Shantoto, but because you're only spending 2 mana on this flashback cost, it won't draw you a card off of Shantoto. So, but there are other flashback cards that are worth playing, probably, that have 4 up here, or 4 down there, or both. But
Alright, so worth a look, but maybe not going to find the best nuggets in there.
Yeah, I think your best bet is still going to be the kicker-like ones, where you can cast them for a lower cost or a higher cost, because that gives you a lot more flexibility. Now, Shantoto doesn't have flying, doesn't have, no offensive abilities, no defensive abilities, and yet a repeatable source of card draw is pretty good. I think your best bet, though, is going to be for Shantoto in the 99.
Alright. Sorry, sweetie.
Yeah, Shantoto probably going to go around here because there are going to be much better payoffs that you can put in the command zone than her. She is an uncommon after all. These are usually supposed to tell you, like, here's the mechanic that'll be good, and not like this is the biggest bomb you could ever hope for. So, now, Sin, Spira's punishment, is supposed to be some world-ending monster, and,
Here he is, about to nibble on Galactus's tip.
Well, want to read the card for me?
Yeah, sorry, just had to traumatize you first.
Oh, thanks so much.
Alright, for 4 mana, a black, a green, and a blue, you get a 7/7 Leviathan avatar with flying. And whenever Sin enters or attacks, exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random, then create a tapped token that's a copy of that card. If the exiled card is a land card, repeat!
Oh! Okay, so first off, 7 mana, 7/7. We're passing the vanilla test. And then with 2 upsides with flying colors.
Yep.
Which you would hope, considering green creatures tend to be bigger, multicolored creatures tend to be more efficient, and if you're spending 7, it makes sense that you get a 7/7 with stuff. Now, I don't remember if Sin actually flies in the game so much as... I remember it being like a sea creature in the scenes that I recall, but I don't know, I haven't played the game in a long time.
And I haven't played it at all, so I can't help you.
I think it kind of like floated across the ocean surface.
It's like one of those flying whale deals, it looked like.
Yeah, it's definitely got some whale elements to it. And while it would come from the ocean, I think it's just, all the major towns were near the sea or something. I don't know. It doesn't... I'm going to skip past that stuff because I don't remember that well. I do love seeing Leviathan again, though.
Leviathan is just a fun word to say.
Oh, yeah.
Leviathan.
As someone who has a sea monster deck, there are nowhere near enough Leviathans out there. And there are quite a few creatures that could have been Leviathans, and they just seem to have forgotten. But Leviathan, I believe, has a biblical origin.
Yes.
And that Leviathans originally were a name applied to basically whales when we thought that they were like mythical creatures, but
or sea serpents.
Well, yes. You can't often see most of a whale, and so people would kind of imagine what the rest of the monster looked like, and hence we got a lot of Leviathans. But as we explored the seas more and drew them and wrote about them, we kind of figured out whales, and then we started killing them for their blubber and stuff. So great. Now, as a magic card. So when this enters or attacks, I love that it triggers when it enters. I love that it triggers repeatedly. That's my favorite, when they do something now and they do something the longer it sticks around. So you have to exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random. So this is a deck, though, you want to fill your graveyard. You're going to be self-milling. You're going to be discarding on purpose. And the reward for that is that you make a token that's a copy of that, and if it's a land, you do it again. So if you have lands in your graveyard, you might be able to reanimate or resurrect or whatever 2, 3, 4 lands in the same turn. They're all tapped, so you can't use them now, but that's fine. It's a long-term benefit. And it is random, which to me is kind of fun. That takes it from a reanimator deck where it's like, okay, I put the most powerful busted creature in the graveyard, and then I bring it back, and then I kill you, into like, all right, let's spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel of reanimation, folks, just like in Dark Souls. No, Darkest Dungeon. Darkest Dungeon.
Ah, okay. And honestly, if you are just discarding a couple of cards on your way to getting to 7 mana, then that's fine. You could be more strategic like that, because the strategy and randomness are kind of enemies.
Yeah.
But I think that the most fun thing is going to be a deck that mills itself a ton. And I've shown a variety of different ways of doing that in the past, but I remember one of the first bomb rares that really got my mind thinking back when I started playing Magic was Traumatize. You want to read that card for us?
Target player puts the top half of their library rounded down into their graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
Ouch.
See, I think when you're new to Magic, like I was back around here, perhaps you think that the coolest thing you can do with Traumatize is hit your opponent and make them lose half their deck, and then like maybe do it again to them. You know, really, it hurts to lose half your library. But as an experienced Magic player, the coolest thing I can do is traumatize myself. And if you're playing Sin Spirit as Punishment and you traumatize yourself, then you could get anything, a smorgasbord. Last thing I want to say about this before ranking it is, mechanically, how are you going to randomly pick a permanent card from your graveyard? How are you going to do that?
Shuffle it?
Well, so first off, you gotta separate the permanent cards and the non-permanent cards in your graveyard. Then you gotta count the permanent cards. Then you've gotta pick a random method, which would usually be a die, but then if you have like 17 permanent cards in your graveyard, you don't have a D17 on you.
Just bring a D20, and anything higher than a 17 is a reroll.
That's one possibility. You could also use various apps to make a custom digital die, which, you know, I have a couple ways of doing that. Or I think you had it right with, like, shuffle it up and then have someone pick a card.
Any card.
That's going to be probably the most fun way of doing it and the most low tech. So I'm going to encourage that. And honestly, this sounds to me... Well, hey, come back here. I'm not putting you in questionable. No. You're going in exciting,
you're
buddy.
Going in exciting.
Heck yeah.
How
This seems
exciting.
like so much fun. I haven't even mentioned that 7 commander damage divides into 21 perfectly, so if you hit anyone 3 times with Sin, they die. So.
They gone.
Mm-hmm. So I like Sin Spirit's Punishment a lot. I think that it is a perfect, like, alright, now we're in super mode. Everything up until now has been set up. And you're ramping in green. I gotta move on, though. Next, we're on to Squall Seed... Seed? Mercenary?
Seed.
It's Seed?
I never
They just
found out what it
capitalized the
stands...
D?
I never found out what it stands for, if it stands for anything. It's just called Seed.
Huh. Okay, this guy's bringing the capital D. He's putting the D in Seed.
Yes, he is very handsome, but he's also the single most annoying Final Fantasy protagonist I've had to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
I've had moments where... I mean... Honestly, the thing that made me quit the game was Squall. There's a moment, spoilers, when he and Rinoa are on a rocket ship and they are falling into the atmosphere of the planet. And this is after Rinoa has been revived from being in a permanent comatose state. And during that time, Squall was all like, "Oh my god, I never told her how I feel. What is wrong with me?" And then she wakes up and she's like, "Hi, I'm alive. Can I maybe have a hug?" And he's like, "We have to focus on the mission now." And I wanted to hit him with the narrow end of with the spine of a hardcover.
Wow.
I was so done with his crap by then.
And also, if I remember from the demo that I played of Final Fantasy VIII back in, 1999 or something, that they're basically all teen soldiers.
Yes.
Yeah, so...
And we're treating that like that's a good thing.
We're violating the Geneva Convention out here. We're doing the whole Power Rangers, we need teenagers with attitude to kill people.
Although technically, I guess we could call it the X-Men thing, too.
Yeah, although you don't have any control over who gets powers, and you are the target, so you have to be able to defend yourself. I do think that Xavier's younger classes are intended to be, like, not a middle school and martial arts kind of like self-defense.
But yeah, this crap right
But
here.
eventually it always turns into X-Men superhero mutants.
So maybe somebody should have a talk with Charles Xavier, like,
Mm.
hey, maybe no, or hey, maybe we need to reevaluate this like a lot.
Hmm.
But no, in Seed, it just straight up is exactly the bad thing.
Oh, and all the high school drama too. Rivalries and such. People being snippy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we read what the magic card does?
Now that we're done being angry about Final Fantasy VIII,
Mm-hmm.
for two mana, a white and a black, you get a 3/4 human knight mercenary. Good
Okay.
synergies with knights.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike until end of turn.
Oh.
This is a reflection of Squall's "I do everything alone" personality.
And also that his gun and sword are the same thing, so maybe you could go like slash and boom.
Actually, yeah, he totally does that a bunch of times in Dissidia.
Okay.
That's one of his main moves.
All right.
Whenever Squall deals combat damage to a player, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Wow. Okay.
Is that the-
Shoot.
Hang on, how much mana does Renoa cost again?
5.
Oh, well, she's not coming back.
Whoops. Oh well. Well, that's a bit of a flavor fail then. Although there is a long tradition of reanimating things with mana value 3 or less, specifically permanent cards, in white. Usually black takes off the restrictions a bit, but oh well. Black and white knights are definitely a supportive mechanic. Mercenaries also a little bit, considering that they count as outlaws for Thunder Junction, Outlaws of Thunder Junction. That set.
Huh.
So if we look, for instance, at Outlaw in the text here, okay, I don't know which of these cards are good, but like, I don't know. Destroy target non-outlaw creature. Mercenaries are outlaws. And there's a handful of cards. Return X target outlaws from your graveyard to the battlefield. Are any of these going to make the cut? I don't know. But you know about the knight synergies. You might not have known about the mercenary synergies. Whenever a creature attacks alone, it gains double strike. So that goes along with a lot of Exalted. Exalted.
I only know about
Mm-hmm.
the role playing game, and even then, only barely.
Why don't we read this card?
Whenever flying exalted, whenever a creature you control attacks alone. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
+1/+1 until end of turn, and this also gives it lifelink. So, Battle Grace Angel would seem good in a Squall deck, although it might be even better to have some that cost like 3 mana or less. Like Knight of Glory. Hey, it's a knight.
Or Knight of Infamy.
Hey, it's a knight.
Hey, why not both?
Yeah, exactly. So you can play a lot of those things. Nepharox, I don't know. And then things that cost 3 mana or less that you could bring back. I'm going to do one last search here, I think. For something that might be good to bring back with 3 mana or less, I'm thinking of Aura of Silence. I kind of hate this card, but I also think I should probably see it more. Do you want to read it real quick?
Let's see. Artifact and enchantment spells your opponent cast cost 2 more to cast. Sack it to destroy target artifact or enchantment.
Yeah, it's super mean in a deck like this one. Not to mention that Squall deals combat damage likely twice if he's attacking alone, so you get to reanimate 2 things. So all that said, I think Squall is good. How good? Let's see, probably around here.
Good, because the Cloud fans were about to throw a fit.
Honestly, Cloud is, for me, kind of the gold standard for good, because he's so efficient, gets an equipment, and then like doubles triggers. That's just very powerful.
And as a protagonist, Squall is definitely knockoff Cloud.
Yeah, they definitely, when they were making Final Fantasy VIII, they were like, oh shoot, we really did something with 7. So let's stick with the like kind of futuristic but still using swords. Let's stick with the teenagers with attitude. kind of, or
Let's name
well,
him Squall instead of Cloud Strife.
yeah. So
Let's make him all
anyway,
stoic and angry all the time. And I'm like, that's not what
Mhm.
Cloud was like. That's just what people pretend he was because he was supposed to be. He was a dork pretending to be a cool guy,
yeah.
which of course turned out kind of cringy because he's
Mm-hmm.
because an uncool person's idea of a cool person in real life is quite cringe. And
Mm-hmm.
that's also part of why people were telling Cloud to, dude, settle down, just be yourself. And he's like, I don't know who myself is.
But I think that's hard to get across with text only. It's hard to get across with such minimal graphics that the PlayStation 1 has. And that's also running counter to the, like, I am a guy with a gigantic sword who's doing lots of murder good. It seems like he should be cool. And so I
He is
get
kind
why
of cool,
that
but he's
kind of
cooler
provided
when he's
mixed
being
messaging for
himself rather
people.
than.
I think that some of the writing that you're talking about probably comes from like the developers kind of looking inside their hearts maybe a little bit more and going like
Yes!
this is what it the self-insert character, you know?
He is the self. But Cloud's a great character. I like Cloud as a character because he's kind of a real. Hey, gamer, this is you.
Mhm.
Warts and all sort of deal.
So in a way it's kind of like a
Yeah, you can be a badass who saves the world, but let's face it, you need to get out more.
it's like a backdoor isekai, and that like you didn't know that the whole time the protagonist was kind of more like you actually than like
Than you ever
Zack Fair.
Zach Fair.
Yeah. So yes, it's like an isekai, except the main character doesn't know that they're like inserted into another world. They just think that they are this guy who's cool.
Right.
Okay, but we got to move on.
Yes, we do. Anyway, enough rambling about that.
We're good at yapping, and we care about a lot of this
Tella!
character stuff. Tell us from Final Fantasy IV, your favorite game again.
Yep, this is our man who uttered the immortal line, "You spoony bard."
Yep. And he's a great sage. Although in this he's a human wizard. Honestly, good
Yeah.
thing he's a wizard. That makes the most sense. But what does he do?
Well, for three mana, a blue and a red, you get a 3/3 human wizard. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 colorless hero creature token. If 4 or more mana was spent to cast that spell, draw 2 cards. 8 or more, sack Tella, and it deals that much damage to each opponent.
Wow. So I didn't play Final Fantasy IV, but I did hear that last part of his ability is kind of a spoiler. If you spend 8 mana or more, then he dies, but he goes out with a bang?
Yeah, kids, this is what happens when you try to cast Ultima in your 80s.
Oh no. Or when you try to do, I don't know, like a remote astral projection with the Force all the way to to fight your nephew or whatever.
Silent Mortal, that scene was awesome. He just pulled the biggest mind trick in the biggest Jedi mind trick in all of history and made it look super cool.
Okay, I mean, I wasn't intending this video to be, dividing people on Star Wars Episode 8 opinions, but I'm just going to throw mine out there as a seed for the future. I like Episode 8.
So do I.
It's not perfect, it's not
Of
my
course
favorite, but I like what they were trying to do.
I liked
and
the direction they were going in, and I was so mad when Rise of the Skywalker just swerved it into another direction. It's like, oh, I thought it looked cool. The way we were
know.
going looked cooler.
I mean, I would have rather had Rian Johnson stick around to do Episode 9, and I would have rather they continue that direction instead of the hard pivot that made what is possibly the worst Star Wars movie out of all of them.
Yeah.
Episode 9.
I do not feel as charitable toward Rise of the Skywalker as I do to many of the other Star Wars movies that I'm not that big of a fan of.
Yeah, no. Okay,
Anyway.
so 5 mana for a 3/3. This guy's gonna be not particularly useful in combat, but that's common of wizards. They don't often, if you're selecting attack on a wizard's turn, you're probably doing it wrong. You want to be selecting item or more likely, cast or whatever.
Yeah.
So casting a non-creature spell of any kind gets you a 1/1. That's so good. That's so good. Like at instant speed for 1 mana, you could do just a simple like opt,
Summon
right?
party!
Optimus Prime. What is this game? Opt. Um, 1 mana
Scry one,
Sky
draw a
one,
card.
draw a card, and then you make a human as well, and that can be a chump blocker. Like you, with Tella as your commander, you are never defenseless. I think that this is the ultimate spellslinger archetype, the ultimate spellslinger commander. I think that we have seen here, because he encourages you to, after you've got him on the battlefield, just untap, draw your card, think for a second, and then go pass the turn, and then make everyone worry. What are you going to do? Are you going to cast multiple small spells to make a couple of heroes? Are you going to cast
Big heckin' spell?
a medium-sized spell that draws you 2 cards? When you're ready, you could go for the big Mamma Jamma. It deals that much damage to each opponent.
Boom!
I mean, and it's equal to the amount of mana that you spent. So keep in mind, in the middle, you could be doing like Mana Geyser. That could be spell number 1 for the turn, if you want to read that.
Add red for each tapped land your opponents control.
In Commander, on, say, turn 6, because you've got Tella, and then you do that, your opponents likely each have 6 lands. They're usually mostly tapped out. 6 times 3, 18?
Sorry, I lost track. What?
6 times 3, 18.
Yeah, 18.
So Mana Geyser, it's pretty reasonable to make 18 red and draw you 2 cards because of Tella. And then you spend that 18 red on frickin' I don't know.
On something scary.
Yeah. I mean, what's the I mean, there's fireballs. I don't know. There's a million different variations on fireball. You know.
That's fireball.
Yeah. How about Comet Storm? That's not how you spell it?
That is not how you spell comet.
Comet Storm, is that one of the good ones? I think so. X red for an instant with multi-kicker.
Ooh.
Choose any target, then choose another target for each time the spell was kicked. You deal X damage to each of them. So you multi-kick it 3 times, and then you make X the biggest number that you can think of.
Oh dang, get those X spells.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you can also be playing it with Turnabout, so that you can like pay for this, draw your 2 cards, and then untap all of your lands in order to produce more mana. There's a million different ways of getting boosts off of him, and then he not only builds you the defensive creatures and draws you replacement cards, but can do the big boom that wins you the game. He's great.
Oh, this guy. Yeah, I'm liking this.
I wanted to put him in good because like he doesn't have any defensive abilities, no keyword abilities. He costs 5, so you get started on it a little late. But you know what? I think I am going to put him in exciting. Maybe a little lower down. You know, maybe like about here or something. Not everybody likes to play Spellslinger, and it is one of the most skill testing archetypes, because you need to fill your deck with instants, and timing on instant speed effects is
friggin'
one of
everything.
Yes, it's one of the like biggest breakthroughs, like big brain moments in Magic when you get good at timing instants.
I am still struggling to master it.
Absolutely. Magic is a complicated game and takes a long time to go from competent to like actually genuinely good. And learning when to time your instants is the biggest breakthrough, I think. And I used to be terrible at it. I've been playing the game a long time, and I now am fairly confident, but I know that there are people who are better at it than me.
All right, next up is Terra, Magical Adept.
Okay, so she's from Final Fantasy VI. Ah, okay. So what does she do?
Well, for one mana, a green and a red, you get a 4/2 human wizard warrior. When she enters, mill 5 cards. Put up to 1 enchantment card milled this way into your hand. Make sure you've got enchantments to mill.
Okay, yeah.
For 4 mana, a red and a green and a tap, you can exile her and then return her to the battlefield transformed.
Okay. Into
Esper Terra.
Okay.
Look at that! Look at that! Look at that!
Nice. She's a saga wizard still. Okay.
Yep, she's basically her own summon creature.
Yeah.
For the first 3, for the first 3 steps of the saga, you create a token that's a copy of target non-legendary enchantment you control. Again, them enchantments.
Mm-hmm.
It gains haste. If it's a saga, put up to 3 lore counters on it. Sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step.
Okay, okay.
Get those effects and get them fast.
Mm-hmm.
And for the final step, you add double Wooburg, exile her, and then return her to the battlefield face up.
And she's a 6/6 flyer that whole time?
Yep.
And she sticks around for longer than most sagas do,
Yep.
for 4 turns.
Instead of 3.
Yeah, I mean, so you'll get to attack with her twice, probably, but you'll also be making copies of other ones. A bit of rules baggage here that will please a lot of people, I think. Disappoint a few. She looks like a red and green commander, but she's not. In normal Magic, you can play her in a red-green deck, and that would be fine. In Commander, she is a 5-color commander because of the mana symbols used on the back. Which, for the most part, is good for us, because it means that if she's your commander, you can play a 5-color Sagas deck, a 5-color Summons deck. And that's definitely the intent.
That would be a wicked cool experiment. Although,
yeah.
if you did just want to play her in red and green, then that would be fine too.
You can, but I think that she's going to be at her best when you are, trying to get all the way up to this, and she's giving you access to all the different colors, because are there going to be enough good summons in red and green? Maybe, but this gives you access to the best across the board. Also, green is the best color at finding lands and fixing your mana colors and such, so you're pretty likely to be able to make blue or white or black.
It'll be tricky to balance, because Wooburgs always are.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, anything beyond 3 colors is hard to balance.
Although, interesting thing here, Command Tower, one of the most popular cards. Well, it says add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Color identity is that unique trait that only matters in Commander, where it includes the mana symbols on the back. So that means that Command Tower in her deck does tap for 1 mana of any color. So that'll help you cast your blue and black and white summons and stuff. Also, her milling and then bringing back an enchantment is a good way of building up like a supply of sagas to go find.
An army!
Mm-hmm. A 3-mana 4/2 is pretty good. You've got some wizard synergies, although most of them are blue. You've got some warrior synergies. I don't remember what they are, but I swear they exist. So, honestly, she seems great. Did I mention that the sagas that she copies have haste? So they can show up
and just come out swinging.
Mm-hmm. Even though they enter with 3 lore counters on them, that probably doesn't mean that they get to do any of their lore abilities, because those trigger after your draw step, and that's not one. So a little awkward there, but regardless, you'll just get their bodies, or they don't have to be sagas. They can be any kind of enchantment.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a good balance between power that is broad and power that is specific.
Yes.
So it will give you lots of options, but not unlimited, enough that you could make a competent deck out of it with some focus. She is exciting. How exciting? I would say probably, actually, probably around here. The last thing that makes me want to put her up a little bit in the excitingness is because she does care about sagas and specifically summons so much, and that is the exciting new card mechanic in this set.
This is what we want. We're like, hey, let's see what we can do with these things.
And a flavor win, of course. So she's great. Then we have, don't tell me it's Titus.
It's Titus.
It's Titus. This
There's
is
a
one of the
whole
examples.
ocean thing going through that whole game, and his name is Titus for the tide.
And Yuna is named after the moon, and the moon kind of controls the tides. So I think that a lot of those implications were intentional, and the pronunciation of his name in Japanese I don't think was intentional. I think that that's more of a kind of, it fell where it lied, or whatever. Lied where it fell. Regardless, what does this Blitzball star do?
Well, for 1 mana, a white and a blue, you get a 2/1 human warrior, and whenever an artifact you control enters, you put a 1/1 counter on Titus. Whenever Titus attacks, tap target creature an opponent controls.
Interesting, interesting. So it triggers when an artifact you control enters to put counters on him. That's good. Of course, any commander that you're gonna, have to attack with it, because for a second ability you have to attack, you would love it if they either have evasion or have some way of getting stronger, and he does, built in. Casting an artifact, or even better yet, right, an artifact entering, is a pretty low barrier. You could trigger that multiple times in a turn. So by the time that you attack with him on the next turn, you could have already played a couple of artifacts. And then, close to evasion, you attack with him and you tap a creature that would be blocking you. So, the one creature that that person controls that would give Titus heck, you tap him down. Now, he's an uncommon. He's not generally as strong as the one from the Commander deck. And he's intended to be one of the kind of signpost uncommons that tell you that blue-white is about artifacts matter. But I think he's pretty good.
Yeah.
The question is, what are some of the best artifacts that you could have entering and triggering on him here?
Soul Ring.
I mean, well, yeah, you're going to put that in every deck. You know what? Our recommendation for the day is to put Soul Ring in your deck. We recommend that one.
Okay, I'm getting serious now. How about, Swiftfoot Boots is a gimme, so is,
I mean, honestly,
Arcane Signet.
you can think of a lot of the things that you would put in here. But if I try to go a little deeper...
Shadow Spear.
Sure, absolutely.
It goes
a
with
lot
everything.
of equipment are going to be good in here. What about something that makes artifacts repeatedly? What's something that makes artifacts repeatedly? Shoot, I'm having a hard time thinking of something.
What is, no, wait, no.
I'm thinking of... Genesis Chamber is not going to be ideal, but it's kind of what I'm thinking of. Because this one triggers whenever a non-token creature enters to make a token creature that's a 1/1 artifact. But it does that for everybody, not just you. So that's probably not ideal.
Wait, can we look at Titus's description again?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, it has to be an artifact you control.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, if we can avoid giving free artifacts to our opponents, most of the time we want to. But let's see. Say we're playing blue and white. How about create artifact token? Oh, yeah! Oh! I mean, they don't have to be artifact creatures, of course. They can be Smothering Tithe.
Yep.
Makes you artifact tokens whenever your opponents don't feel like paying their taxes. So there are a lot of options like that. And of course, that is a permanent buff to his power and toughness. So it doesn't matter if they're made on your opponent's turn. He'll keep the counters.
You probably want Ozolith.
The Ozolith. Maybe. I mean, of course, you have more options
Keep
for
den
protecting
counters.
Titus.
And it's an artifact, isn't it?
Yes. So that's not a bad idea. And let's see, what was I... Okay.
Mondrak Glory Dominus.
No. Urza's pretty friggin' nuts. This is more what I was thinking.
Whenever
you want to
you
read
cast
that?
an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying.
Yeah, so this effectively doubles the number of artifacts that you're playing. Because every time you cast an artifact spell, you get it and another artifact. And 1/1s with flying are great. Very, very useful. Oh yeah, Thopter Spy Network. That's another one. Basically, at the beginning of your upkeep, you make a Thopter. And you draw cards when your artifact creatures hit people. Yeah.
I like them, sorry.
Oh, one more that I'm going to bring up here then. Never mind, this doesn't work.
Anyway.
Okay, so Titus, is he great? I mean...
I think he's good.
He's good. He's good. I mean, he starts off as a 2/1. It's probably not going to be the most exciting deck in the world, but I agree. I do think he's good. Maybe somewhere around here.
Okay.
So wait, 7, 8, 10. Where's our 9 protagonist?
He's gonna be the
Oh,
last
he's
one.
alphabetically last.
Yeah.
Well, let's go on to Ultimecia, Time Sorceress.
Okay. For 3 mana, a blue and a black, you get a 4/5 human warlock, and whenever she enters or attacks, surveil 2. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay 4 mana, 2 blue, 2 black, and exile 8 cards from your graveyard. And if you do, you transform her into Amnesia Omnipotent.
Uh-huh.
Here's the real question. Is she still hot?
Oh, hold on. Hold on. I think she's hotter this way.
Of course, you gooner. All right.
What else does she do, though?
7/7 Nightmare Warlock with Menace. And her time compression ability is when this creature transforms into Ultimecia Omnipotent, take an extra turn.
So you know how I said before that one of the most fun things that you can do in a game of Commander, I think for everyone at the table, is to have a game that will kind of go through an early phase, and then you'll kind of level up, and then eventually you'll go into like this late phase where, you know, now it's the finale, everybody. Ultimecia might be one of the best commanders ever at that kind of logical progression. In that the beginning of the game, you want to be getting cards in your graveyard, of course, like a lot of these cards are.
Of course, of course. Plus, this is blue-black, so that's very much a thing.
And so you want to get to 8 eventually, so you're going to be doing some self-milling, some surveilling, some looting and stuff like that in the first 4 turns. You might be able to get a mana rock or 2 out to get her out, you know, maybe on turn 4. Then, when she enters or attacks, I've told you how much I like that. So they do something immediately, even if they die, but if they stick around, they do more. Love that. She surveils too, which helps you fill up your graveyard and customize the cards that are in your hand by, you know, only drawing the ones that you want, basically. Excellent thing for a super villain to be doing here. Love the use of Warlock as well. That has been used in Magic synonymously with Witch, and I think that applies to her quite well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She's often referred to as the Time Witch, not just the Time Sorceress. The Sorceress is when you're being polite. Also, why is her flavor text misspelled?
I doubt it is.
Crusade is spelled with a C!
I mean, I bet that's on purpose. Although, I'm noticing that the normal version of her card does not have flavor text because it has to do the reminder text on Surveil. So this is one of the few cards where one version of it has flavor text and the other doesn't. So if there's going to be a time that they do misspell a word, but I don't know. Final Fantasy 8 fans, get in the comments. Does she just do some words different like that? Or is this actually a mistake?
I do not recall. I mean, granted, I didn't get all the way through the game, but I do not recall her having any anachronistic spelling in her text boxes.
Wait.
Careful, I think you're walking into a fan fiction.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, I'm going to Tumblr apparently. But we are seeing some results for Crusade spelled with a K. So,
Why?
your vain crusade ends here. Okay, well...
Nobody has ever spelled... I'm having a fit.
Okay, well, it sounds to me like this might not have been a mistake.
This might be a meme.
At least not on it might be a meme, yeah.
It might be a meme like the Spoony Bard or how I Garland will knock you all down.
Okay, so to get back on track here a little bit, you gotta pay a whopping 8 mana at the beginning of your end step to transform her, and only if you have 8 or more cards in your graveyard. But I think that is... I mean, this is one of the few times where I think that kind of cost is worth it.
Because Menace 7/7 extra turn.
Yeah, I've never seen a more worth it exceptionally high cost of mana. Um, Taking an extra turn in Magic can cost as typically like 5 mana, if not more. A 7/7 usually costs like 7. Add Menace onto that and do them both at the same time. Um,
And
so,
8 comes out as kind of a bargain.
and you're probably going to be ramping a little bit to get to that. It's not going to be turn 8, but, turn 7, turn 6. And with surveilling, you can kind of make sure that you hit all your land drops along the way. Honestly, I think that this is going to be a very fun blue-black deck. If you look at a character like Ultimisia and you're like, she, me for real, this is the kind of vibe I want to be bringing to the commander table. And I know that a lot of female Magic players look at something like this and go like, yes! It's I think especially a female power fantasy. This is the perfect commander for you.
To be hot and powerful.
And to
And
ruin
evil.
everyone's day and laugh, cackle about it. They can't feel too bad about it though, because well, she's just cool. I think she is exciting. She's going way up there. How exciting! How exciting! Maybe around. You know what? I'm gonna put her here.
Ooh, just under Kefka.
Yeah, honestly, the supervillains, they are some of my favorite in here. Because in Magic, you are always torn between I want to do something powerful and I want to do something that my opponents will want to play Magic with me again tomorrow or next week.
The true meta, getting people to keep playing with you.
And the supervillain is a great way to go, where you get to do some of the coolest and most powerful things, but they tend to come later. So everyone has a chance to play a real game, and then you do your, super omega weapon.
And it's so awesome that they don't even
Oh, no.
mind losing to it.
Oh no, okay.
What did you just do?
I hit the back button on here, and
Ow!
everything's fine. Okay, I meant to do the back button on here. Okay, now we get on to
Vivi!
Vivi Ornitier,
Ornitier.
which apparently is the most popular card in this set.
Well, look at him!
I know.
He's
I
freaking
know.
cute!
He's pre-ordering for $70 for the most basic version, in part because he's a mythic. People have been speculating about this card for CEDH, for for every format, and they love him because he's so fucking cute, So he's got fans in every corner. But what does he do?
Well, for 1, a blue and a red, you get a 0/3 wizard. And for 0 mana, you add X mana in any combination of blue and or red, where X is Vivi's power. Activate only during your turn and only once each turn. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you put a 1/1 counter on Vivi, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent.
Okay.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
Yeah, so, okay, at first glance here, I didn't think that much about Vivi, because 3 mana for a 0/3, obviously we're off to a bad start there. 0 to add X mana in combination of red or blue, that seemed weird, but X is equal to its power, and its power is 0, and you can only activate it once and only during your turn? That all seems pretty rough. And then, okay, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, he gets a counter and you bop everybody for 1. Okay, that's
Now
the
I
real
s-
meat and potatoes.
It's kind of a let him cook.
Okay, so that part's great. And all the black mages in this set do all kind of do that last ability. They don't get counters, but they bop everybody for 1. Also, you will note that he has just the creature type wizard. That they have canonized that his race is kind of mysterious, or his race basically is wizard.
Effectively.
Yeah. So who knows what's in that black shadow? There's.
It's as mysterious
is.
as with the Jawas.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, so that's the trick here, is that much like a lot of the other, black red or blue red wizards, you want to be casting lots of non-creature spells. But unlike the other blue ones, it doesn't have to be 4 mana or greater in order to do anything good. So you can cast a 0 mana artifact like Mishra's Bauble or like Mox Opal or whatever, and he'll bop everybody and grow his power. Then you can make 1 mana, which you can use to cast another non-creature spell, which will get him another counter and another bop. And then by the next turn that you've got him out, he's ridiculous. It is that fast. You fill your deck with 1 and 0 mana non-creature spells, and you just hurt everyone so much, and you make so much mana.
And then you just bop everybody like the world's gonna end tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You bop everybody like you are the horny SWAT police, and you just came to the goon, and you have just been tipped off to where the gooner party is.
Mm-hmm. So, I think for the flavor people, for the people who go
That
like,
is so cute.
What I know, what a cute guy, and the thing, for all that, this is one of the there are a lot of people who will pick a commander for flavor reasons, and then they go to play it, and unfortunately, it sucks. Thankfully, Vivi is not one of those commanders. Vivi is a commander that if you look at it and go like, oh, so cute, I want to make them the front of my deck, you'll have a good deck. As long as you do keep in mind you just want to cast as many non-creature spells as possible.
Cast all the things.
That's all you got to do. That's a pretty easy rule to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But then there's this whole middle range of people who don't care so much about the flavor. They just want to have like a good time sitting down playing the game. Those people it might not be so strong on, because there are so many cards, so many commanders that do care about casting non-creature spells. There are so many like it. The VV has a lot of competition, and he doesn't have built-in offense or defense really. So maybe a little mid for those players, and then you come full circle around to the bracket 5 people, the CEDH, where you are already packing your deck with as many 1 and 0 mana non-creature spells as you can, and genuinely, this could be great. So, for that reason, I am kind of more the player in the middle that we were talking about. I can't deny that he's exciting.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to tell you that VV isn't exciting. However, personally, if I wanted to play a red-blue Spellslinger deck, I would be playing Tella here. So, people are going to be mad at me, because a lot of people are going to say, VV, right to the top. No. Personally, I'm going to put him right under Tella. I think Tella's going to be the more fun.
He's still in the exciting tier, though, so that's great.
Absolutely.
Also,
I can't deny.
Correct me if I'm remembering this wrong, but isn't there... I'm trying to remember... One of the main things I'm remembering about Vivi is that he and Zidane have a scene where they pee together, and it's kind of a bonding exercise.
What?
I'm not... I don't think I'm crazy on this one. I think it's like those two peed together, and it was kind of a bonding thing.
Just bros being bros.
Yeah. That's basically exactly what they were going for.
Extremely masculine guys doing extremely masculine things next to each other. No worries that...
and no eye contact!
No worries that VV, probably doesn't have pronouns, and Zidane loves to show off his midriff, and has a weird... and wears a tail all the time.
There is no straight explanation for this.
Yeah, I mean... It's not like I know a subset of like a community of people that I enjoy greatly the company of, who like to wear tails and bear their midriffs and things.
Shout out to the furries.
Well, actually, there's a number of people who are kind of like that. I don't wear a tail. I don't think it'll work for me. But if someone else does, depending on who they are, I think that's kind of cool. Moving on.
Anyway.
The Wandering Minstrel. I guess he's technically from Final Fantasy XIV, but I've heard some people say that he's kind of a stand-in for certain bards across the franchise.
The main one that's coming to my mind is Edward. But Edward has longer hair.
Okay.
And he also has more of a red and green thing going on than a black and red.
Okay.
Anyway, for a green and a blue, you get a 1/3 human bard. Lands you control enter untapped.
Oh.
And... at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 5 or more towns, create a 2/2 elemental creature token that's all colors!
Ooh!
And for 3 and Wooburg, other creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of towns you control.
Okay, that's kind of a lot. Okay, I remember looking at this guy and going like 2 mana for 1/3. Fine. Lands come in untapped. Excellent. And you get some 2/2s every turn that are all colors. Excellent. And then I get to this last ability, and it's like, okay, obviously they just wanted to make it Wooburg.
Yeah.
But then they tacked 3 onto it. You know what you can do for 3 and Wooburg?
No, no, I do not. What would you do for a Klondike bar?
Vic. I just say victory. You win the game.
Yeah.
If blah blah blah, but like.
But you win the game.
Yeah, I mean, this was banned in Commander for a long time, but it was added to the Game Changer list recently. Because it's true that while like a card that just straight up says you win the game isn't necessarily the most fun, and getting a creature of each color and a land of each basic land type isn't the hardest thing in the world anymore. If only there was an easy way to get a creature of each color in this deck. Yeah, so you could either just straight up win the game for this cost, or you could buff your creatures based on how many towns you're playing. And this is the only set to ever feature towns, and most of them are bad. But most of them are bad because they enter tapped, and he makes them not enter tapped, so suddenly they're alright. Some of them are great. The ones with adventures tend to be good. And you do have to control 5 or more towns in order to get the elementals. So, I mean, really, this guy's just playing, like, I don't know if he's even playing basic lands. You know, maybe you play, like, an island and a forest, and then you have, like, 35 towns. You play just all of them or whatever. But, honestly, it's mostly pretty great. Your lands entering untapped can be incredible. It's a little hard for me to think of specifics just because... Well, okay, you know what? Actually, I can think of one other specific. Simic... actually, I can't remember what it's called. That! Simic Growth Chamber! You want to read it?
Let's see. It enters tapped. When Simic Growth Chamber enters, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Tap to add a blue and a green.
Yep. So normally this card is a decent enough card in Commander. You sacrifice a little bit of tempo in order to stay on your mana curve a little bit longer so that you don't have to draw as many lands in order to, you know, reach the higher mana values and stuff. I do like playing this in slower decks, more control decks, stuff like that. Or decks that struggle with mana ramp, so usually not green, but this is an example where, since it taps for 2 mana, if it entered untapped, it would actually be more like playing a Sol Ring.
Yeah.
And then it costs you a land, which you already tapped for mana, and then you get 2 back. So he does turn your bounce lands basically into Sol Rings that make colored mana.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best example I can think of off the top of my head. Although also, you can just play, like, everybody has, like, Evolving Wilds in every precon that they've ever purchased, so most experienced Commander players, and even newer ones, have a few Evolving Wilds sitting around, and they suck. But in this deck, the land that you get comes in untapped, so
you know, it gives
not
him
sucking.
gives him a good patch.
And there's also a number of cards like Explosive Vegetation that'll go find 2 lands and put them on the battlefield tapped, and this has them coming untapped. Yada yada yada. So how good is he as a commander? I mean, obviously you're just going to play lots of lands. They're probably going to be towns, so you make elementals. And this is the deck for Coalition Relic, or Coalition Victory. So on the one hand, it's weird that I'm not more excited for this commander, because I think that this goes maybe a little too far in kind of just building the deck for you in a way.
Maybe.
Because the obvious thing to do is just play like all the towns, and then your deck is done. Whatever else you play is just like a few things to search for lands. And yet, playing towns could be fun. Making those 5-color elemental tokens, you know. So I'm torn, actually. He should be exciting to me. Towns are a new mechanic as well, except most of the towns don't actually do anything. They're just lands that say town on them.
And they enter tapped, so this guy is
Though
basically giving them a patch to make them more viable, so I think that he should go into good.
I think so
Maybe.
too. I'm going to keep him. I'm going to gatekeep him from, which by the way, gates, that's a good land type, but in exactly the same way, where it started off kind of bad, but then they did gates here and there until eventually they're kind of good now. Actually, a gate deck now is kind of busted. Um, but I'm gatekeeping him because really he just negates the drawback of towns.
And it kind of takes a little extra something something to get into the exciting tier.
Oh, and I remember I was complaining about that last ability because it doesn't give trample or anything like that.
Yeah.
It makes your creatures big, but they're... I don't know. So we're almost done, though. And we're on to Yuna, Hope of Spira.
And here she is petting a tentacle monster.
Oh, yeah, you know, a girl's best friend is the consenticle monster.
No comment. For 3 mana, a green, and a white, you get a 3/5 human cleric. And during your turn, Yuna and enchantment creatures you control have trample, lifelink, and ward 2.
Oh.
At the beginning of your end step, return up to one target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it.
Okay. So, it's interesting to me that out of all the creatures that do care about sagas and summons and stuff, they were not consistent about what creature type does that. She's a cleric. We saw another one who was a wizard. We saw another one who was a shaman. So we've seen a variety of creature types representing your summoners. And while that is a little weird to me from a Magic standpoint, I know that they looked at each character individually in order to decide what flavor of summoner they are.
Well, it wasn't just the characters, it was also the general positions in life that summoners occupy in each Final Fantasy game, because it varies.
Yes.
In one, they are clerics. In one, they're more of a... in 10, obviously, we're likening them to clerics, to perhaps... to Shinto priests.
Yeah, like Miko, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, like shrine maidens. Yuna is absolutely a shrine maiden, by the way.
Let's see.
Look at the bow. The bow.
Isn't that called an obi, or am I...
I think so.
Or am I wrong?
I think so. That sounds right. They also have a religion about this pilgrimage that these summoners go on. So it's absolutely a cleric thing.
Then in Final Fantasy IV, you've got the Village of Summoners. And instead of being treated as, I guess, religious, each person in that village is kind of connected to their summon. If the summon dies, then so does the person. So there's more of a almost druidic connection there, I would say. So shaman would be appropriate for that.
I have seen Magic really scale back on using druid and shaman in certain places, but I don't know if there's really a trend to that.
And let's see. And there are versions of Final Fantasy where your summoner, where the summons beasts themselves, where the beast can be summoned by pretty much anyone, but you have to kind of gain their alliance and respect first.
Okay.
There are ones where, in Final Fantasy VI, the summons are their own creatures and they aren't connected to other people so much.
Okay.
Basically, the summons have different roles, so it makes sense that they would be used in different ways depending on which Final Fantasy game we're looking at.
So to get back on the card here, being a 3/5 means she's got a big butt. But for 5 mana, you would hope that she's something more like a 5/5. However, that first ability is so important. During your turn, she and your enchantment creatures have trample, lifelink, and ward 2.
Yep.
That is really good. And then, yeah, she's going to be reanimating your enchantments for free every turn. And so they don't have to be summons. You can be reanimating... Oh, shoot, wait a second. Return up to 1 target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. What are some... Oh, God, what are some really strong enchantments?
Parallel lives?
I mean, that's good. Doubling season might be even better.
Ristic study?
But Ristic Study, I mean, is a good enchantment, but you're not playing blue
Ah,
here.
right.
So hold on, let's do a quick search because I'm not usually the Enchantress player. Um, I usually I've seen enough people do Enchantress stuff that I'm usually not that into it. But I want to do a search where I include the mana value is how about greater than 5? What are some of the most powerful enchantments you could be playing? Ah, the Nyxbloom Ancient, which
Oh, that's
triples your mana.
pretty. That is so pretty.
Yep, it also triples your mana, and Yuna can get it out, at the end of the turn for free, basically. Zendikar Resurgent doubles your mana and draws you cards. How about this one that gives +10/+10 Trample and Annihilator 2?
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, this was the one I was thinking of. True Conviction gives double strike and lifelink to all of your creatures at all times. There are just so many options here. Legion Loyalty is great. All your creatures have Myriad, so they split into 3 every time they attack.
How about that colossification, though?
The Colossific... Oh, yeah!
Kitty!
You give a creature +20/+20. Sure, you tap the creature, but she can bring back all those from the grave. So you want to be looking for some cycling enchantments. You want to be looking for some surveil, stuff like that. Honestly, the last thing I want to say about her here is that since she does give a synergistic boost like horizontally across a bunch of your different permanents, I think that makes her an excellent commander. 5 mana would be a lot in other colors, but in green it's not so bad. So Yuna, to me, is exciting.
Oh boy, we've got almost more exciting than anything.
Yeah, in fact, to me,
In fact,
I want to
yeah,
put
we
her.
do.
I want to put her right next to Terra because I think that these are two.
Those two would be besties.
Yeah, they are also two of the most viable summoner commanders. Them and Garnet. Garnet I only put higher because she comes out so early and does things that are almost as good. So we are finally
We made it!
onto the Final Fantasy legendary creature.
Hello, Zidane, Tantalus Thief. For 3 mana, a red and a white, you get a 3/3 human mutant scout. When Zidane enters, gain control of a target creature an opponent controls until end of turn. So kidnap it.
Oh.
Untap it. It gains lifelink and haste until end of turn. Whenever an opponent gains control of a permanent from you, get treasure. So you kidnap somebody's creature and then hold them for ransom.
Which, isn't that something that happened in the game? Like,
Yeah, but to be fair, the princess kind of asked to be kidnapped.
yeah, there's...
And I don't mean like, ooh, she was asking for it. No, she literally said, please get me out of here.
Yeah, there's a card that represents that moment in... I want to see if I can find that here. It's this. Unexpected Request. I shall hereby do my best to kidnap you. And it's very similar thing. You just steal a creature, untap it, give it haste. Except you also steal an equipment attached to it, and then you give that stuff back.
I like that she's dressed up like a white mage.
Oh yeah, because I think she is. She is the white mage in that game, I think.
I'd have to play again to remember for certain.
And he is a scout, which means that you might put Vaughn in his deck, rather than the other way around, because Vaughn is
Yeah.
mono red. Always good to see more scouts. Mutant, I mean, always good to see more mutants. Looking forward to the day they make an X-Men set. Just waiting. But, okay. So 5 mana for a 3/3 fails the vanilla test. When it enters, you steal a creature, untap it, give it haste. The lifelink! I missed the lifelink at first. Okay. Still, as you see on Unexpected Request, you can steal a creature and give it haste and untap it and all that, and then give it back for 3 mana. So, for 5 mana, you are also giving it lifelink, and you got a 3/3... And, okay, whenever an opponent gains control of a permanent you control, you get a treasure. So when you give something back...
When someone goes, hey, give me that!
Yeah, or, what is it? Harmless Offering. Is that how you spell it? Is there 2 R's? No, there's 1.
you.
This is one of my friends, another friend of mine's like favorite magic arts ever. And so for her birthday one year, I actually bought a playmat of this signed by the artist Howard Lyon.
Oh my god,
Um,
his name's Howard Lyon.
yeah. um, and I don't know if you've noticed, let's see, such an adorable face. I don't know if you noticed what's a little strange about this kitty.
It appears to have a snake for a tail.
Yep.
And it's also definitely bitten that guy's hand, but it's too cute!
And especially in the playmat, you can see there's a little blood on its
Blech.
mouth.
Blech.
Yeah, tail turned into something. He's got a. Oh yeah, what's happening over here?
There appears to be some talons on one of its feet. Doesn't
So-
matter, it's cute.
Yep. So I love the implication of harmless offering. You give target opponent a permanent that you control. And why would you do that? I mean, assumedly it's something that's going to come back to bite them. And hence the flavor on harmless offering is perfect. And this is one of the few situations where you get an extra reward. You get a treasure off of it, and that's great. It's not even a tapped treasure. So, that said though, this only triggers the one time, and this is hard to trigger repeatedly without actually giving your opponent something good. You could play just a, like, threaten deck, you know, where you're just stealing your opponent's creatures and giving them back, and that will make treasures. That's
It's
probably...
not really an end game, though, is it?
Well, it's probably the most fun thing that you can do with Zidane, and it'll work out fine. But you're right. It relies on your opponents to be playing good creatures in order for you to win, and these spells don't have an individual impact that is good enough to win the game usually, unless your opponent has, you know, transformed Ultimecia or something, and then you borrow that for a minute and smack them with it.
Or a colossified Yuna or something.
Yeah, and at that point, like, what are the odds that someone's going to give you an opportunity to steal that? Usually, if they make a creature that's that incredible, they kill you with it. But you might get the opportunity, and it could be kind of fun. I wanted to say that he's better in the 99 of decks like Zedru, which is a pretty old school commander now, because I think Zedru was one of the first commander precons ever. I don't know why it's taken a hot minute. There we go. Red, white, and blue, so you can include Zidane in the Zedru deck. Could you make an all Z's deck? All were the cards that start with a Z?
We dare you.
We dare you. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of permanents you own that your opponents control. And for 3 mana, you just harmless offering. You just give something away. So if Zidane is in the 99 of
Oh
this...
yeah, he would be great in this.
Absolutely. If you are still playing a Zedru deck after, how many years is that? 14 years?
Oh Jesus.
Then good on you. Zidane is a new fun addition. If you want Zidane as your commander, I hesitate to say that it's good. I'm not sure if the borrowing creatures deck is going to be good because of some of the things that I just mentioned, and how many borrowing things cards are you going to be playing in your deck? They typically don't say draw a card on them or anything to replace themselves. They only have an effect once, and then you give the thing back. And otherwise, you're going to be getting hurt a lot, I think. So I think I can't quite justify putting him in good. I think he's going to be better in the 99, and I'm going to put him, I think, about here.
And with that, we have finally done it.
We have ranked.
Oh my god. This took how many videos? 4?
7.
7.
7, which are each an hour plus long.
Oh my god.
Did you watch this entire thing? If so, I think we owe you a Coke.
Yeah. And for God's sake, stand up, stretch, and
Oh.
go touch some grass for a bit.
Oh yeah, I hope that some of this was like listening to it on like earbuds as you're going places on your commute, maybe.
I know at least one of you has
know.
been doing this while barely conscious in between doom scrolls.
Yeah.
I know you because I am you.
So, in the end, I think that this large selection of commanders that you can open in booster packs, starting with the pre-release, which, I mean, I don't know if I'm even going to get this published before the pre-release actually happens now, because it's only a few days away still at the time of recording. if you open any of these, I think that you and your opponents are likely going to have a good time building and playing these decks.
There is so much to choose from, and I think
Yeah.
at least half of it, if not most of it, is good.
Yeah, in fact, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 11 across, so that means 22, 23, 24, 25.
25 exciting ones.
And there's 22 good ones, and 24 that are better than the 99, and 13 that are questionable, and only 5 that I thought were lame.
Yeah.
Wow. And you'll also notice, as I said right from the start, from when we first started doing the white ones, is that the multicolor ones do tend to rank higher, in that the majority of the exciting ones are multicolor. And then when you start getting like around here, not many of them end up in the questionable. Because being multicolor gives you access to more than one set of mechanics. Most decks, I think, are going to be best served by having two colors.
It gives you a bit more reach.
It gives you more options. It allows you to cover your bases. It allows you to play more interesting mana bases, more interesting combinations of flavors and mechanics. It's where you want to be in Commander, I think, like 70% of the time.
Comment below with your favorite Final Fantasy and why it's your favorite.
Mm-hmm. And if you open these at a pre-release, let us know. I mean, we'd be happy to hear from you guys about anything here.
If you somehow spot us in the wild, please say hi.
Yes, and maybe, like, give us a power bar or something to make up for all the energy that we put into recording all these things. And 7 hours, a lot of that's going to be us yapping.
Yeah.
Especially me.
You guys must really like us if you've been listening to us yap for that long. Thank you.
Me.
We love you.
And by the way, this was me with, like, being reminded repeatedly to, like, hold back a little bit, to not just endlessly yap, because if she didn't,
then we would be making this into a series as long as Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, the next set would be revealed by the time that we were done with this. So thank you for reining me in a little bit. And I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up now.
Tune in next week when we start playing video games with each other again.
Oh yeah, we've got a number of video game videos that are queued up already waiting in the wings. And honestly, I can't wait to get back to playing video games for this channel, because there are a lot of new games that come out where I would like to get my first crack at it on camera for all of you.
Yeah, same here.
So then that means I've added like 10 games to my collection in the last couple of weeks that I can't start until I'm recording it for y'all. So, but hey, I'm putting it all on the table. You guys are going to get my first reaction. And Ame's. Catch you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.